What's up, peeps? Welcome to the Ebb and Flow podcast. It's your boy, ex-NFLer turned yogi, Eben Britton. It's excellent to be with you guys on this magnificent day we have before us. Today's episode is a fantastic one. It's powerful. It's with my brother, Robert Althuis. Robert has just written a book titled Never Enoughitis, which, put it simply, I can describe as a modern-day hero's journey. He was a very successful businessman on an international level, was finding himself or found himself completely discontent and still trying to fill that hole in his heart, and went on the path to seeking out how to find fulfillment, joy, and purpose in his life. Super powerful. I really can't say enough about it. We're definitely soul brothers. He is the founder of an organization called The Whisperer, which is a mindfulness-centric organization that does programs, events. He has an entire workshop system based on his beliefs and the things that he has used to reinvent himself in life after entrepreneurship. So it's a powerful one. I think you guys will really enjoy it and get a lot out of it. And that's about it for that. This episode is brought to you by my brothers and sisters at BiOptimizers. Guys, I'm telling you what, if you have trouble sleeping, there is no better supplement than Magnesium Breakthrough from BiOptimizers. Magnesium is a super powerful mineral. It is used or helps to facilitate over 200 processes in the human body. It's very important, one of the most important molecules, substances, minerals we can take. I am not a huge fan of taking supplements, vitamins, etc., but this is a profound one, and specifically profound in how it affects your sleep. I have, throughout my life, I don't know, probably since I was a little kid, I've had difficulty sleeping through the night. Wake up, go to the bathroom, just wake up because God is calling, whatever it might be. Thoughts, memories, things, anxieties of the days to come, etc. You know what it is. And getting sleep is the most important part of your health and well-being. It really is the foundation of living a healthy life. And so this product, it's a combination of 7 variants of the magnesium particle. So it's a holistic blend. It's fantastic. I have never felt so rested and recovered, sharp when I wake up in the morning, ready to rock and roll. It is all thanks to Magnesium Breakthrough from BiOptimizers. So you can check this out. I've got a deal going right now. There's a link in the show notes, but you can head over to magnesiumbreakthrough.com/ebenflow. Follow the prompts to get 10% off your next order. Or you can just head over to magbreakthrough.com, use code ebenflow10 on checkout to get your next order of Magnesium Breakthrough. Once again, that's www.magbreakthrough.com/ebenflow. Follow the prompts. It'll take you right there. I highly recommend it. It's one of the best supplements I've ever used in my life, honestly. So lots of love to you guys. Enjoy this episode with Robert Althuis, and I'll see y'all on the flip side. Peace.
You have unlocked the eternal link to internal source, the key of imagination, your admission, access to the enlightened dimension. A gateway at the junction of darkness and light. The place at which the chaos of our conditioned frame of mind give way to a life in constant flux, only to be mastered through vigilant discipline. Peaceful times may come, testing times may go. This is the ebb and flow.
Robert Althuis, it's excellent to have you on the Ebb and Flow podcast, brother. Thanks for joining.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. I look forward to the conversation.
Absolutely, man. So you've got a book coming out. It's called Never Enoughitis, which, first of all, that title speaks volumes to me, because I'm always talking about how we've got to get out of the rat race of always striving for more and never getting enough, because it's never enough. Mm-hmm. But reading about your story, it completely resonates with me, man. And my experience playing professional football and coming out of that life, the lessons I've learned and the truths that were revealed to me through that process. So I'm really stoked, man. I'm stoked to have you on here, and I'm stoked to dive into your story. I guess that's probably, to me, the best place to start.
I love it. I appreciate it. And the book came out January 19th, actually. So it just came out about 2 months ago.
Excellent.
And, the title, I got to give some credit to my publisher, because the title was actually Overcoming Me. Because I started writing this when I was in therapy after my divorce in 17. My heart burst open. I had heartbreak, and, I was all kinds of turbulent circumstances in my life. I had a business that got wiped out by a hurricane. And, I started writing about all these things to really just reconcile my life with myself. I couldn't look at the guy I saw in the mirror, what I had become, even though the world was deeming me to be successful, right? My LinkedIn profile was fantastic. I looked like a rock star in the business sense of the world. But really, when I looked in the mirror, I saw an empty man, and I saw a narcissistic asshole that I really couldn't stomach. Some of the things I had done. I'd lost my integrity in so many different ways, not just my marriage, but even the way I conducted business, the way I showed up in life. And that's really where this book came from. And it became Never Enoughitis because I use that term quite a bit. I don't even know where I found it, but I use it throughout, because to me, it describes this carousel that we're on in this life that is egged on by, societal programming, cultural beliefs. And, we're always just seeking more, right? But we're trying to fill ourselves up, this void in ourselves, with stuff on the outside. And this can be anything, right? It could be cars, could be money, could be fame, validation, recognition. It could be love, right? Yeah. And as long as we're trying to fill that void on the inside, which is really the epiphany I had at some point, is like, I can never fill this. Right? No matter what I have in my life, no matter how much money, I had millions in the bank and I felt poor. And I know to so many people that sounds like, well, that's crazy. You're insane. But I know a lot of people that are very wealthy on paper, but are very poor in terms of, where their soul is. Right. And so I found out these things, really the hard way, because I fell from grace. But some of the biggest gifts in life come wrapped in sandpaper, and so I'm grateful for everything that came on my path, and I needed to learn the things I needed to learn.
Oh I love that, dude. Sometimes the greatest things in life come wrapped in sandpaper.
Isn't that how life works? I mean,
so true. It's so true.
And we learn by crisis, right? I mean, we are this evolved species supposedly, but we learn when the wheels come off the wagon.
Yeah.
We don't learn when shit goes well.
Right.
We don't learn when we're shining and blowing it and just smoking it. we learn when the wheels come off the bus, and then we're like, well, now what, right?
Absolutely.
And we have this false perception in life, in society even, that failure is something to be avoided at all costs. And I always tell people, turn it around. Because in every failure is exactly the lesson you need to learn to progress, to grow, expand, and, become the person that you're meant to be here. And I don't want to get too spiritual about it, but, that is really what we're here for.
Brother. Get spiritual.
And life is spiritual. Business, sports, everything is spiritual because we're spirits, right? We're just here, absolutely. On a journey. And, so I had to also change my relationship with failure, because most of us live from fear. Fear of not being enough, fear of not measuring up, fear of having to be something to become someone. And, I suffered from all those diseases in the biggest way.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So you were born and raised in Holland?
Yeah, born and raised just in a little sleeper town outside Amsterdam. And then when I was 17 or 18, I moved to the city, and I spent a few years, mindless years in university. I didn't like it at all. I didn't see a purpose for it. And, Amsterdam is a good place to be when you're 19 and 20. But, so I grew up in a very liberal country that had a lot of freedom. I grew up in privilege. I don't have a rags to riches story, except that when I was 21, I wanted to get out of Holland. It was really small. It was congested. I wanted to get out of university. So I bought a one-way ticket to Australia, and I was on a working holiday visa there, and I wanted to sail yachts. That's really what I wanted to do. I had this talk with my dad, and I said, I'm going to take a gap year. And he says, a gap what? And I said, well, let's just talk about where you keep sending me my college money. He said, no, you're not on my payroll anymore. You're on your own, dude. And so he cut me off, which was, again, this gift wrapped in sandpaper, because, I had a lot of pride, and I jumped on this plane. I went to Australia, and the next few years I journeyed around the world. I sailed yachts in Australia. I had all kinds of odd jobs. I became a tennis pro for about 3 or 4 years, and a journeyman tennis pro, kind of a day late and a dollar short, but I had a go at it. I lived in Jakarta for a year, working with the Indonesian Davis Cup team. And, then I ended up in Atlanta, and that's really where my career started. I got involved in real estate and started a job at $7 an hour. I still remember it. And put myself through night school. And that's kind of what set me on this journey of, career success, what they call it, right? Which was a beautiful journey. I was, amazing experiences.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Everything you're saying is it resonates with me on a very deep level, because I had this dream when I was a little kid that I was going to play professional football.
Right.
My mom would never let me play. Finally, by the time I was a freshman in high school, I had my dad help me convince her to let me play, because she was always worried I'd get hurt. And from the moment I stepped on the football field, right, it was like this rocket ship straight line trajectory to the top of the mountain. Everything I did, how I carried myself, how I trained, how I ate, how I looked at the world, how I approached my life, was all in alignment to achieve this dream of making it to the NFL, because I saw achieving this success as my way out of the darkness of my childhood.
Yep.
And, I built myself into this warrior, and I made it there. In 2009, I was drafted 39th overall in the second round by the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now I had achieved the dream. I had all the money I could possibly have imagined. I had all the access. I had the car. I had the house. And there I was, and the hole wasn't filled.
Right. Yeah.
The hole in my soul was still there. And I was thinking, and I just became more and more miserable.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't listening to my heart, and I was still in this egocentric mission to show the world how big and scary I was.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I totally destroyed myself, with all, by any means necessary.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I totally resonate with that story clearly. And listen, you and I aren't the only ones, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Because there's a couple things, we, when we're born into this world, our parents do the best they can, but, they still indoctrinate us, right, with their upbringing and their cultural beliefs. And then we have, possibly religious dogma, societal programming. And then we go into the world and we're fed this story, like what we need to be someone, right?
Yeah.
And that's the biggest bullshit to start with, because the moment you come out of the womb, you take your first breath, you are. Right?
Yes.
You don't have to do anything. You can go sit on the beach the rest of your life, and you're just as glorious of a soul as anybody else that makes $100 billion. I mean, who cares, right? But we're fed this false story, and there's so many people that set off living that story. and then find exactly like you and I found, like, shit, what am I doing? Why am I not happy? Why am I not full? And I see this in so many different forms. I recognize it everywhere. I mean, this is the work that I do now. I mean, I try to make other people see it, that there's a different way, right? The other thing is, like, there's nothing wrong with going out in the world and creating something beautiful, right?
Yeah.
And whatever that is, you want to be a painter, be a painter. You want to be an entrepreneur, be an entrepreneur. There's abundance for everybody. It's not a problem. But, if it's not your passion, right, it's not your soul calling, and we all have, I'm a big believer, we all have really unique gifts, superpowers, and talents that we are all here to bring into the world, each one of us in our own little unique way. And our only job is to find that passion, right? And then bring that into the world. And when that happens, you find a form of alignment. You find a form of synchronicities in life and support from the universe that is just incomprehensible with anything you have to do with willpower.
Yeah.
Because now you're being pulled by life.
Yes.
Instead of pushing your way through life. And, to me, my career, as successful as it was, I was pushing, man. I was so good at out hustling everybody else. I was so good at making an extra couple of hours every night and, working nighttime and rising early because I was driven, I wanted to be validated, right? I had a big father wound and, he never complimented me and I wanted to impress him and I wanted him to be proud of me. And then, I went into the world and I wanted to be better than everybody else. Everybody was my competition.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
Every every guy with balls was my competition, period. And now I laugh at it, but, at the time, this was dead serious. This was life and death for me, man. This was like, and so, we go into the world, and the problem with the masculine, and too far off straight, but, the masculine, when it's hurt, it hurts externally, right? Women inflict pain internally. That's why we see eating disorders and thyroid disorders and adrenal fatigue when women do this kind of behavior. But men,
interesting.
Our anger, our resentment, our irritation, our violence comes out, right, in external hurt, and we do it in two ways. We hurt the ones that love us the most.
Yeah.
This is why there's so much domestic abuse. This is why women, face the brunt of this. And then second of all, we start to self-destruct, right? Because there's so much pain inside and we have no way to vent it. We have no way to ventilate it. So it comes out sideways. And we do it by self-destruction. We start numbing ourselves with alcohol, with drugs, with sex, with porn. We have affairs, we start fucking up our life.
Yeah.
And it's this pain inside. I see this everywhere, and that was me.
Yeah.
That was me to a T. Totally. And it's and when we can arrest this and we can start changing our perspective on this, I mean, there's a liberation that opens up, and you probably have experienced that you just don't really care that much anymore what other people think. You're like, I need to be able to look me in the mirror. Right. Yeah. I need to be able to tell myself I did the best I could, and I'm imperfect, and I still screw up, and I still make mistakes. But you know what? At least I own them, and tomorrow I'll do a little better. So life just changes when you start, kind of going down this path, and it opens up, right? It expands.
Oh, so much, man, so much. It's so powerful what you're saying. I'm curious. Well, I don't know if this is because I have seen that absolutely in my own life. You hurt the ones you love the most.
Yes.
And I'm
absolutely.
curious, how does that, because it's not like you're going out, you're not taking the inner rage and the resentment and the anger out on the people outside of that realm. I think that's so interesting.
I would disagree.
Okay.
I would disagree. Look at the world today.
Look at
the war, the violence, the hate, the inequalities, the injustices, and
that's true.
And again, I don't want to go too far off topic, but the last few millennia, right? We are in a man-dominated masculine energy, right? We're all in our head. We rationalize everything. We pulverize half of the earth, but we rationalize it because we're making more profits this way, and we got a bang up quarter. We have wars that if you think about the nature of war and the violence that we can inflict on each other, you're like, this is crazy. This is absolutely crazy. Why are we doing this, right? Yeah. And so men do have, like, we as men we are supposed to be dangerous,
Yeah.
but not be a danger.
Right. Yeah. I love that.
It's in our archetype, right? But
Yeah.
when we are not conscious about our own dangerousness, we become a danger to society. Yes. And we're in this industrial revolution. So now it's desktop danger. But fraud and corruption and
right.
the things that we do all over the world in pursuit of profits and the harm that we inflict on humanity, it's just as violent as the sword and the shield was. Absolutely. 500 years ago.
Absolutely.
So it's still a form of violence, right? It's not a form of love and compassion that we're bringing in this world. And we will not really truly turn that corner until we shift out of the self and we start seeing that everybody is me. Everybody is just me on their own path. We're all an individual expression of universal intelligence, what I call it. But, you can go God, source, whatever. Yeah. But once you start seeing, we're all on the same journey. We all want to be happy. We're all just pursuing happiness. That's all we're doing. Most of us are a little asleep, but let's help wake up some folks, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But we're all chasing the same stuff. I can guarantee you, you go in the middle of Africa or some culture you've never been. I mean, they want the same things.
Absolutely.
And so as long as we have this notion, you see it here in politics, it's so divisive. I mean, just in the last 30 years that I've been here in the States, this place has changed and it's hardened, and we have such lack of empathy. And, that's the stuff that worries me. I have 3 kids, and this is why I got into this, and this is why I finished the book, because I'm like, I don't want my kids to live. I don't want my kids to inherit this world. And I'll give you an example. Today I was on Facebook, which is kind of the armpit of the world, but there was someone I know that posted something, and it started really nice. It was I was in line at McDonald's, and there was this lady honking behind me and mad and angry, and so I went to the first counter and I paid her food. I said, "Man, this guy gets it." And then he went on and he said, "Then I went to the second counter and I took her food." And he said, "Did you learn your lesson now?" Was like it. And, I couldn't stop at replying. I said, "How did you make the world a better place? How were you the bigger person here? How did you show any love or compassion?" Because that woman is now even more pissed off. She had a bad day already, clearly, because who in their right mind is honking and doing all kinds of stuff in the McDonald's line? That lady is having a bad day, right? God knows what happened to her. Maybe she just lost someone. Maybe whatever, right? Have some compassion. But then you do this. Now she's even more pissed off. What she's going to bring into the world now, right? You could have switched that moment and gave her a level of empathy and doused that with a bunch of love, and her anger would have been subsided. She was like, "Oh my God, I got to chill the fuck out. I just got my breakfast paid for," right? Yeah. But now you send someone into the world. Okay, you taught her a lesson. What lesson did you teach her? You taught her the lesson that the world is fucked up. Right? She's just mad and angry, and she's going into the world, and nobody creates beauty from that place.
Yes.
So, it's just this lack of empathy. It's like me against you. And that's just not the way forward. Not with 8 billion people in the world, right? Yeah. This is not the way forward. I mean, we got to start thinking about things a little bit differently.
Absolutely, man. I keep having these things come to me. Downloads from the universe. Get out of the mind into the heart. Yeah. We can also, another thing that continues to come to me is we can't afford much more unconscious actions, thinking, living. Yeah. And, it's in that example, there's so much because we have totally taken for granted this experience of being a human and the energy. And, you can go, "Oh yeah, I taught that lady a lesson." But at the same time, exactly like you're saying, there's energy and frequency and your actions and your beliefs and your thoughts. 100%. It sends ripples through the universe that have effects that you can't even possibly imagine. And now you've touched that person with this negative frequency, reinforcing her ideas about the world. And now she's going to go into the people that she knows in her day, and that's going to ripple out of her. And it's like, man, like you're saying, brother, we got to become more conscious.
And even you hurt yourself.
Yes.
Because you are now carrying that energy in the world. I cannot imagine you showing up at your desk or your workout or whatever and thinking like, man, that was awesome, man. I really
Right.
I really nailed her, right?
I showed her.
That's not an energy. Nothing good comes from that energy, right? Even for you. And it's even unhealthy. It's even unhealthy in your body, because we're energetic beings. And I want to get back to you on this mind and the heart, because that's really the essence of it, right? I mean, we collectively live in our mind.
Yes.
And our mind is a beautiful instrument, but it needs a skillful player. And it needs to serve the heart. It cannot be the mind as the master is tyranny. Yeah. And this is what we see in the world today, right? The heart is a center of intelligence. It's your direct connection with your higher self, with the quantum field like Einstein described. And in the quantum field, there's infinite possibilities. If you want intuition, if you want wisdom beyond your limited brain, because your brain can only deduct from the experiences you had in your lifetime. That's very limited. But there's this quantum field out there that knows everything about everything. And our connection with that is connecting with our heart. And love is an energy, right? And energy is information. Yeah. So when we tap into love, we're tapping in love the energy, not love the emotion. Yeah. And when we tap into that energy, now we're tapping into this universal wisdom, this intuition. And the more we can clear that channel, right, and make our mind the servant of our heart, we're finding all these synchronicities, all this alignment in our life, and now we're guided and we're instructed, and we have so much access to beautiful things that we are just cut off from when we just live in our mind, our little monkey mind. It just kind of spins and spins ideas because it's based on such a limited experience of the world. Just that little few years we were on this earth is what it can draw from. That's the only library of information it has.
Yeah, totally, man. You're speaking my language, Robert.
Yeah, well, I love this stuff. I mean,
what was it? There's a lot of pathways to this. There's a lot of pathways. I mean, I think Musashi said there's infinite paths to the top of the mountain or something like that.
100%.
And
there's no wrong paths either.
I know. When you really get down to it, you realize that, and that's even more of a trip.
Yeah.
What was it? How did you come to this? Like, what was your pathway in? I mean, I know, obviously.
Yeah. So I'll give you so I built out this business. I started in real estate. I went to Columbia Business School, and I had a career at GE when it was still a company people wanted to work for. And, and then in the financial crisis, I was on the GE Capital side, and I was doing big infrastructure deals and aircraft leasing and all kinds of funky stuff. And but we were doing cowboy stuff, right? So when the regulators came in, it was like, all right, you guys got to stop that stuff, and rightfully so. And so I wound down that unit, and then there was an orphan asset, we called it, and I bought that out, and that's how I got into business for myself. And this was 2009. The world was on its ass. We were in the middle of a crisis, and then serendipity, right? There's no such thing as accidents or flukes or in this universe. I mean, it was total serendipity. We won this massive deal in Bogota, Colombia. And I was building airports at the time, so this was a big infrastructure deal. And from there, I had pension funds and private equity clients, and we did deals all over Latin America, and we built up that business. And in 2015, we sold all that business. My private equity partners wanted to get out, and I found myself. By this time, I had 3 kids. I lived in Miami, and I remember flying back. It was January 2015, and I had reached the quintessential mountaintop, right? I mean, I just made an ass load of money. I had been making tons of money. I had this beautiful house in an oceanfront community. I had, let's call it a trophy wife. She's much more than that. She's my ex-wife now, but she's a wonderful person. But, a trophy wife, the beautiful kids. Yeah. I had the cars, the toys, the exotic vacations. And now I had a lot of time on my hands because I'd been working like a beast. And I flew back and I'm like, I'm supposed to be happy because this is all I wanted. This is what I worked for 20 years, and I made it. I won the game. Like I went into this matrix and I won the fucking game. Why do I feel so empty? Why am I so unhappy? Why am I so restless? Why do I feel it's so pointless? And that kind of started this venture down, like, I didn't know how to solve it. And I was depressed. I was like, I felt terrible about it. And I started reading books. And, one of the low points that I had on this journey, I started to go to workshops and retreats and learning other things. And I just couldn't get motivated anymore to do the same thing. I was like, it's so pointless. And like, there's got to be something else. I had no idea what it was. And in hindsight, I didn't know I was awakening. And I didn't even know what that meant. And, but I found like great books and great information and more workshops. And then, but I wasn't really solving this depression. And I was even borderline suicidal. But I had everything. Right. And I was even looking around like, why is everybody in my neighborhood happy with this shit? I would go to like these neighborhood parties and everybody would be talking about absolutely fucking nothing.
Yes.
And everybody's like playing happy. And I'm like, man, there's something wrong with me. Right. Like, why do I have these thoughts? And then, what happened, which really shifted a lot of things. There was a guy in my neighborhood from a very successful construction family, had a beautiful house, a wife, kids, whatever. And he one day walked out in the mangroves at 5:30 in the morning and he shot his brains out.
Wow.
And everybody in the neighborhood, you got to imagine this really prestigious gated community in Miami, right? And everybody was like, he should be ashamed and he left his wife behind and all that. And listen, there's nothing beautiful about that, but I understood why he did it. And that scared the fucking piss out of me. I understood the pain and anguish that he had, the only way he saw out was that, right? Which is so low, and you're in so much pain when you have to do that. And I just connected with that pain. I even had dreams where I saw him walk into the mangrove, and I was like,
wow,
man, you gotta get out of this. And the only reason I'm sitting here today, because I looked at my kids and I said, they don't deserve that. Right. And that's the only thing that kept me going, because I was like, I refuse to believe that we're here to be dead unhappy. I refuse to believe that the purpose of life is for us to suffer in that way, which is psychological suffering, which so many people, suicide's on the rise. And there's so much suffering in this world. Right.
Yeah.
And when I connected with that, I was like, okay, I just had this switch in me, and it wasn't resolved, but I committed myself to finding the way out and finding the light. And I just went all in on this spiritual binge. I literally just consumed everything I could. I tried every course. I became a certified yoga teacher. I went to retreats. I did everything like I had done everything else in my life, right? I'm like, I only have one speed, right? I only have one gear. Like, and so, that came out, and then, again, these gifts and sandpaper. I eventually, our paths with my wife, we were too far apart. She wasn't into the spiritual stuff. Our connection was lost. Our passion was lost, but we were great co-parents, and we had a beautiful uncoupling. But during that divorce, I had a business in the Keys that got wiped out by Hurricane Irma. Oh. And it's the only business deal I've ever done in my life that I personally guaranteed unlimited. And in the course of 3 months, I was going through the divorce. I had already committed to a financial settlement, and then now I'm on the edge of bankruptcy. It was all gone in the course of 3 months. And that's when literally my life had just so dissipated and so fallen apart that, it further broke my heart open. Right? Because I had all this anger and I had all this grief and pain that just came out. And it kind of was spawned by the divorce. But, there was a lot of other pain that came out when I went into therapy. I committed to going into therapy for the first time, which alpha males don't seek help. Right?
Yeah.
And I finally said, I need to get some help. And that was really kind of the first step in healing. And acknowledging that I have shadows and I got wounds and I got scars. I'm not this indestructible Iron Man that's just going to crush life forever. I need to find another way. And that became basically the journey I went through the last couple of years. That's when I started writing my book to share that, and eventually I decided to share that story. And I found my way out. I found my way to shore on the other side of the river, right? And what I decided about when I committed to finishing my book, I decided, what I'm really passionate about is sharing my story. And what really my goal is, I work with you're always your ideal client, right? So I work with people that were in the same world that I was, right? Big business, high impact entrepreneurs. I work with celebrities, athletes, people who are under pressure of public eye. And, my belief is that, when we change people, when we change leaders, we change leadership. When we change leadership, we change business. And when we change business, we change the world.
Yeah.
And, there's, I think, a general awakening process going on in among humanity. The way we're moving forward as humankind, we got to change that. And, this is my little piece of the puzzle where I think I have a little bit of medicine I can share. And like any, I don't like it when people will say, well, you're guru now, you're mystic. It's no, everybody's their own healer. Everybody's their own guru.
Totally, dude.
I give people a little bit of my medicine, and I help you find the guru inside. I help you find the healer inside.
I love
because everybody is a healer. Everybody is a guru. Everybody is a mystic. We just got to dust it off. We got to get that diamond out.
Yeah. You got to wipe away all the shit that's blocking your view.
Maya, right? The veil, as they call it in Veda Vedanta. But, it's all the same stuff. All these religions point, and these ancient wisdom traditions, they all point at the same thing. And,
absolutely.
And even the Bible has beautiful truths. Just,
absolutely, man.
And not to kick too many people against the shins, but, people fucked up religion, right?
Totally.
It became a power game.
We made it a business.
It became a power game, right? And
absolutely.
But there's
between man and his God.
Exactly. But there's beautiful wisdoms in the Bible. I'm a total subscriber that, that there was a Jesus Christ, there was a Buddha that walked on this earth, and they came here for beautiful teachings. But when we make things dogmatic and programmatic, that's when we start going on a really slippery slope. And so, I talk a lot about the sovereign soul, and that's what I really believe. We're all here, we're all a piece of God. We all have access to that, and we have to find that piece within us and then go bring that into the world.
So powerful, brother. Fuck, I love hearing this. Your story is so powerful. I think one thing a lot of it in there I want to highlight, I think is so profound, is when you were starting to feel that deconstruction of yourself. You were going, man, there's something just not right here. Mm-hmm. And you said that you didn't know it at the time, but that was the beginning of your awakening. Yes. And I think people have this idea that your spiritual awakening is like this really blissful, like champagne flutes and buttercups. Like come into the light and it's like, no, man, it's really dark and painful and hard, and, the other morning we have a bunch of home renovations happening at our house right now. And, yesterday morning I woke up and our living room is just filled with all the shit from my daughter's room because they're finishing the hardwood floors. And I wake up and I'm looking around and I go, wow, sometimes on the way to better or the more beautiful place, it looks like it's getting worse. Yeah. But it's great to remember that, this is all part of the transition, because if you take a snapshot, if I had taken a snapshot of my house yesterday morning and you had no context of what was happening, you go, man, it's fucking chaotic and crazy. But it's really like our whole home is transforming into a more beautiful version of itself. And it's like, wow, isn't that the same with life? And shedding the old skin can be so painful, and it's all part of that. It's all an incredible process, man.
Well, and to that point, right? I talk a lot about the caterpillar and the butterfly. I love these connections with nature because there's so much wisdom in nature. Right? You just only have to look at things, the stillness of a tree. There's so many different things we can point at. But a caterpillar is not a particularly pretty animal, right? Or insect, and it gorges itself, right? And then it rolls up in its chrysalis, and then it goes through this metamorphosis period. But the most profound thing to know about when it comes out as a butterfly, if you take that chrysalis off and you break it open, the butterfly will not know how to fly, and it will die. It has to work its way out of the chrysalis itself, because the process of that strengthens its wings so it can fly. And
so powerful.
When I work with people, I tell them, love this part of yourself, because the height to which you can ascend in spirituality is directly correlated to how much you can love and descend into your shadows.
Oh.
You want to go deeper up, you want to go further up, go deeper down.
Yes.
And when you're on the brink of that edge where you think you're going to die, go deeper. Because that's where all the gold is down.
Yeah.
The up is beautiful, and you get to see the sunlight, and you get to enjoy all that. But you have to continuously in life be willing to go down. I can tell you a personal story, so because I don't think I'm that advanced in anything, and I'm birthing this I'm birthing this whisperer thing.
Yeah.
And you can see how passionate I am about it. But I can tell you, I can promise you, on the outside it looks beautiful. The last 3 months, man, I've been going through hell. Yeah. I've had this resistance inside me, like, who the fuck are you to talk about this stuff? What have you done in your life to deserve to teach people or to do any of this stuff? And the only reason that I didn't even muscle through it, I just sat in it, right? And I said, well, what is this? Because these are shadows, man. This is thinking, this is things that I need to clear. These are wounds I still got to heal. Because for me to show up powerfully and to be, the way shower that I think I can be for some people, I need to own it first, right?
Yeah.
And so I had to go through that the last few months. And the only thing that helped me, that really pivoted me, was when my book came out, and the responses I got from some people in my book, I was reminded, oh yeah, I got medicine. Now I remember. Because, it's not that it's so profound what I experienced, but it's the medicine for someone out there. Yeah. Just like I consumed tons of medicine in my path. People that wrote books, had workshops, retreats, people that healers and aura readers and astrologers and God knows what else I did, right? They had medicine on my path so I could get to this point.
Yes.
And then we give back. That's the whole point, right? It's the hero's journey. I mean, we get to experience all these things. We go through the dirt. We get, we cry our eyes out. We sit in the pain. And it's visceral sometimes. Yeah. It's absolutely visceral. But on the other side of that, now we can bring this into the world. Now we can share our medicine, just like you're doing this with your podcast and all the work that you're doing, right? You couldn't do that unless you had lived all these experiences. It would be empty. It would mean nothing. You would have nothing of medicine to share, right? And so, I mean, that's just what we're here to do in the world.
Absolutely, man. That's such a great point, and it's something I want to talk to you about with the 5 whispering truths of Zen. But before I ask you about that, I want to share something that happened to me a couple weeks ago, where I'm doing a lot. I manage this podcast myself. I produce this podcast. I'm writing my book right now, The Ebb and Flow: Basic Tools to Transform Your Life. I've got a lot of good shit happening.
I love that name, by the way.
Thanks, cool. Brother. And really, that's what my first book is. I already feel more books coming out of me.
Yeah.
But my first book is the tale of my life through the NFL, how I emerged from that completely destroyed, and the tools I used to put myself back together and reconfigure myself. And the other day, last week, it was last Tuesday afternoon, I'm sitting there and I'm going, man, I just feel fucking like I'm spinning my tires. I feel like I'm not doing any good in the world. Like nothing's coming to fruition the way I had thought it would. I feel tired. I feel overwhelmed.
Yep.
I feel run down. I feel like I'm not fucking good enough. And then like I'm not making enough money. And then this voice came out. I went for a walk with my daughter. My daughter and I took our dogs for a walk. And I'm just starting to breathe and I'm getting out in the sunshine. And all of a sudden this voice comes into my head from out of left field and it goes, Eb, Is it about money? Then go get a fucking job. And I said, no, it's not about money. And it said, Eb, do you have faith in what you're doing? I said, yeah, I believe I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be, doing exactly what I'm meant to be doing. It said, then you're just stepping into this role of the poor little artist up against the world. That's old programming from way back when. And you're just doing this to feel the drama of this thing, man, because you know what you're doing. You haven't lost sight of the goal. You haven't lost sight of your purpose. You haven't lost faith in yourself. It's all right here, man. You know, and I think that, and that was a completely transformative experience. And then I look up into the sky and the clouds part and the sun beams through and I'm like, here I am.
Yeah.
You know, and because I think it's important, man. I think it's important for people to understand that the path is never ending, you know, and you're always, like you said, man, you just keep going deeper and deeper and it's fucking infinite.
Yeah.
You know, I'm mind blown since I've really stepped into this trip. Like I've gone from the mind intellectual understanding of it to the heart centered life understanding. And when you do that and you start to just take every moment as a blessing and every moment as a lesson from God or the universal intelligence,
whatever
I
you
love
want to
that.
call it.
Yeah, whatever you want to call it, spirit, whatever it is, man, life transforms into something completely else. And I just want to highlight how, you know, you've gone through all of this and here you are, there's still demons to
100%.
come to terms with.
Yeah.
And there's still shadows to find love for.
Yeah.
And go deeper into compassion for yourself, which gives you that ability to project that compassion and love more out into the world, man. Yeah. It's incredible, you know.
What I love about that, what you just told me, you know, whenever we're in victim mode, we're in our head.
Yeah.
That's ego talking, right?
Yeah.
And that moment you had is you cleared the static off that channel and you tap back into your heart.
Yeah.
Now our heart accesses our soul's wisdom. Our soul is always at peace, man. It's always still at our soul. That's the deepest part of the ocean. There's no waves there. There's no chop there. There's no white spray coming off the ocean, you know? There's not even currents on the bottom of it. It's just still. Right? And so, you know, the purpose of meditation is not to shut your mind off, but to reconnect with that stillness. And that moment that you just had is like, hey, you tap back into it, right? And it's right back there. And the wisdom comes through and the intuition and the knowing comes through because we think with our mind, but we know with our heart.
So
and
good.
It's not the language of knowing because our brain talks to us in language. Yeah, it's part of our neocortex. Our limbic part of our brain has no language. That's why when we feel, it's sometimes so difficult to put it into words because the limbic part of our brain doesn't use words. It just feels, right? When you are, you know, in a love relationship, maybe you're married or girlfriend or whatever, sometimes just shut the fuck up. Just breathe together.
Totally.
Just look each other in the eyes and just say, you know, let's just not use words. Let's just feel right now. And you will find in 5 minutes of intentionally doing that, you might be able to do what would have taken you 2 hours of talking. You probably would have still missed it by 90%, right? So, you know, we have so much in this heart area. There's so much intelligence. Now, a lot of people ask me, well, what about my gut? I feel things in my gut. There's intelligence. Yeah, that's your body's intelligence. And so your emotions trigger, or your thoughts trigger emotions. And emotions are expressed in our body. And that's our emotional guidance system. Now, whenever we have anything that doesn't make us feel good, we know it's unintelligent thinking in the terms that it's not true. So what I mean by that is intelligent thinking is in alignment with our soul. Unintelligent thinking is anything that's not in alignment, and it gives us a bad feeling. It gives us a pit in our stomach. It doesn't feel, we're not living in our truth at that moment. And it's unintelligent because it's not in alignment. It's not necessarily unintelligent that you don't know how to add. But, when we say something to ourselves, it's like, I'm never lucky, and then we don't feel good, is because you're speaking something that is not in alignment with your true nature. Mm. And so when we start listening to our gut, we start listening to that intelligence, we start listening to that intelligence that we heart. We have 40,000 neural connections around our heart. There's a center of intelligence there. The electric magnetic capacity, of a force of your heart is 5,000 times more powerful than your mind. Mm. You want to play the law of attraction? Play it with your heart. Don't play it with your little mind. Play it with your heart. When it's in your heart, watch out, man. Barricade the doors. You're coming. Yeah. Right?
Oh, yeah.
You're not stopping for anything. And even though you might be making 12-hour days, it's not going to feel like work.
Yeah.
Mark Twain said, right? If you do what you enjoy, you'll never work a day in your life. That's living from the heart.
Yeah.
And there's so much power in this. So I love that example that you said, and it's dramatic, right? I mean, the universe has has a dramatic fashion, man. If you start looking at the signs, you laugh your ass off all day long. Yeah. You're like, oh my God, how many cues can you get? Like, it's like, and
I know.
It's everywhere. It's everywhere.
Absolutely, man. It's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man. Wow. So good. So, the 5 whispering truths of Zen. Has Zen emerged as your, how do you feel about Zen? Because I feel like my life, since I was even a little kid, before I even knew what Zen was, I'm a Libra to a T, and I've always traveled the middle way. Right. That's when I always know I'm in the sweet spot, as being in the middle way. And so Zen in that way has always been very intuitive for me. Right. But I'm curious, is that discipline?
I'm gonna give you just a little bit of coaching, if you want to call it that way. But when you call yourself Libra, you just labeled yourself. You just boxed yourself in.
Good call.
So and I do this too, by the way. We all do this because our mind wants to box everything. Yes, so I'm Aries, Libra rising, and Capricorn moon or something. My mom was an astrologist, so I know all this shit backwards. And at some point, and it's not that I don't believe in astrology, although, if you talk to astronomers, there's some degrees variation there that could actually shift star signs, right? You imagine if people thought they were another zodiac sign, would they change their behavior? I can guarantee a lot of them do.
That's interesting.
So I think these are all like indications, like tarot cards, all beautiful things, but let's not get too hung up on these things. Right?
Sure. Yeah.
Because then we box ourselves in. Absolutely. You're not just Libra. You're much bigger than a Libra. I can promise you. You're the infinite universe in the Eben Britton reincarnation.
Yes.
So the Zen. I've always liked Zen because it really means, in Japanese, it means no mind, which is stillness. It's that bottom of the ocean. It's that soul place, right? Yeah, so I've always loved that. Now, in colloquial language, we talk about it all the time. I'm totally Zen about that. I'm Zen, man. And Zen is something that we want Zen. Everybody wants Zen, right?
Yeah.
We all want to be Zen.
Yeah.
So
people have always said to me, Ed, how are you so Zen?
Yeah, exactly. Forever, so I love that part of it. And then, there's this, hey man, when you build brands and things like that, the Whisperer came to me in a plant ceremony, to tell you the truth, about 2 years ago. About 2 years ago. And I had this, and I didn't know Whisper, what the fuck am I going to do with this? But the next day I bought the domain whisper.com, and I had no idea what to do with it. But I was like, I'm listening, right?
I love that.
I don't know why this is coming through, but I'm listening. And then a few plant ceremony later, the tagline came through: from nothing, everything. I had no idea. What the heck does that mean, right? Now, I've realized that when you are thinking in terms of the quantum field, the field of infinite potentiality, everything comes out of the void. Everything comes out of nothing. Mm-hmm. It comes into being when we create it through our thoughts, emotions, and our magnetic force, right? That's how it comes into this material sense, from nothing, everything. I didn't know that at the time. Now, the Zen, this is the honest, God honest truth. when I was looking at social media and I needed a handle, right? And the Whisperer was taken on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. I was like, well, I want to do something with the Whisperer. And then I tried the Zen Whisperer, and it was available in all three of them. I was like, oh, I'll grab that one, right? And I was like, it's funny because I have this folder on my computer that I've had since the day I started on the spiritual journey. And it's the folder is called Zen. And it's every single spiritual course, book, retreat, everything I've ever done. I've always called that Zen. And I was like, man, the universe is funny, man. This keeps coming back. So I have a digital course I'm developing, which is called the Zen Mastery Method. So I use it now because I think we're all searching for stillness, which I equate with happiness. It's where we're in balance, we're in coherence, we're in total homeostasis physically. Yep. We're Zen. That's where we want to be, right? And when we're in Zen, inherently we're in happiness, in joy, fulfillment, love. All the beautiful things that we want to experience in our life, all the beautiful things we're here to experience. That's what we're here for. And so that's where it came from. It's not all as spiritual as there's a little bit of marketing in there, but I needed a word that worked, and people seem to like it. So,
I dig it, dude. I totally dig it, man. Well, I love the 5 whispering truths of Zen. I love these. Can we go through them?
Yeah, sure.
Do you want me to read them?
Yeah, you can read them, and I just want to pitch. If people go on neverenoughitis.com, sorry to pitch that, but if you subscribe to the letter, you get a 50-page Zen Mastery Primer, which is where you get these 5 truths from.
Oh, I love that.
So it's available for everybody. I write a few pages on each of them. And honestly, where it came from is I had too much material to put in my course. And I was like, I'll just write a free primer and I'll put it out there to give people some value. So if people are interested in reading it, by all means, sign up for it. You get it for free and you can read it in your own time. But yeah, let's go through it.
Yeah, man. Well, I'll have all of that available for people in the show notes, and I'll have links to get your book, all that good stuff.
Beautiful.
But I just think these are such powerful precepts. Truth number 1, reality is an illusion. I love that. What does that mean to you? Because a lot of people say, let's talk to somebody who's totally spun out in the ego living. Yeah. And they're, they love their fast cars. They love the women. They love their alcohol. They love the party. They love the materialism, you know?
Yeah, yeah. And inherently there's nothing wrong with that, right? You can you can be incredibly spiritual and have beautiful cars and gorgeous women and big houses. And so, there's no conflict there, because this notion that spirituality, you need to be poor somewhere and, have a begging cup up, that's bullshit. Right? Yeah, I mean, money is just energy, and we can experience here whatever the hell we want to create it in a good way, hopefully, so you don't harm your fellow people. But, we can have all of it. But nature our reality is an illusion. When we live in that story, which is really what you're talking about, it's a narrative in our mind. We have this narrative of what success looks like, what happiness looks like, but it's outside of us. And we basically collectively live in this dream, this illusion that this world is real, that, all these things are real. I hate to break it to you, but, even countries aren't real. Right. Someone just drew a line on the map and say, this is America. It's not real. It's not nature. It's not means nothing when you die. It's going to be all gone when you die, and that house means nothing, and that car means nothing, and the fame that you might have here, it means nothing when you die. And so when we start measuring in terms of what's going to matter when you die, that's the soul's journey. So, the experiences that I have and all those things you bring with you, right? Your learning, your expansion, your growth. Everything else is just, it's just decoration. And, you can have as much of it as you want to enjoy, but when we get lost in that, then when we lose it, we're unhappy. And then when we have that fast car and then our a new model comes out 2 years later and our neighbor shows up with that model, well, now we're unhappy because our neighbor has a nicer car than we do. And then, our other friend has a more beautiful wife than we do.
Right.
And our other friend has a bigger house, and the other one goes on better vacations. And the other guy in the company his career is going much better. And I have a brother that makes more money than I do. And so we're always like, we're always like unhappy, and we're always like seeking more because it's just not enough. Never enoughitis, right? It's this disease because we're lost in that story. We're not seeing the illusion of it all. We're just our whole self-worth is hinged, it's tethered to these things in our life.
Yes.
And those things are unstable because they come and go.
Yep.
And even in the extreme, we're here to have a human experience, and we love people, and we're meant to love them, but people go too.
Yeah.
And we have this fascination that everything should be forever.
Yeah.
And maybe the relationship that you have, was a beautiful period together, and you had lots of growth and expansion and beautiful experience. But maybe you come to a point in your life where it's just better for both people to move in a different direction. That's not a loss. That's a huge gain. You start looking at life in a different way. But when you're lost in the story, you're lost in the illusion. You're so attached to everything. You're always hurt.
So powerful, man. I would add, the only thing I would add on that, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. On the flip side of that, you can make your whole life about the meditation and about the spiritual practice, whatever it is that you find yourself in. So it's always about coming back to the detachment. There isn't a thing that makes you better, or there isn't a thing that...
And nobody's better anyway, because we're all on a journey. We're all here on a journey, and that guy under the bridge that's getting pissant drunk on his scotch. He's no worse than you. His soul is just as valuable. It's just a different journey he chose here, right? Yeah. But the other thing I would say is that, so I don't particularly subscribe. Again, I don't judge it because I don't try to judge anything, but I'm not necessarily a big believer of people that go sit on the mountain for 6 years and extract themselves from life,
right,
to find spirituality, to find God, whatever. I'm a big believer that we're here to live on this earth, in this earthly plane, in this dense material world, among people, within people, and make our life here. That's spirituality. Spirituality is being in life.
Yes.
Right? It comes from spiritus. In the Latin sense, it means animated. We have to be animated and participate in life. We're here to create. And, in terms of the masculine energy, which is the expansive energy, we're here to penetrate life. We're here to bring our gifts into the world and share our value. And we can be wildly compensated for that when we do that in a beautiful way, because it's all energy. The more energy you bring into the world, the more if you bring value, you'll get compensated for it. There's nothing wrong with that. And then, have that car and have that beautiful house and do all the beautiful things that you want. It's here to be enjoyed. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with it, but don't. There's a moment you can withdraw. Of course, you can go withdraw for a month, for 2 months, and do some spiritual work, but get back into life, right? Get back in the arena. Spirituality, and you sharpen that knife in the arena, not on the sidelines.
Absolutely. I totally agree. I love that. And and going back, we can say, don't do this or don't do that. And it's like, well, whatever way you go, you're going to get there at some point.
Yeah. No, of course.
Do all the drugs, man. Drink all the alcohol. You'll find yourself there at some point.
Yeah. It doesn't bring happiness. And, when we think about an energetic system and I have no judgment about it, but listen, when we want to, this is a vessel, right? And the cleaner we can keep it, the more receptive we will be to tap into that higher intelligence. I can promise you that experience you had where you were on that walk with your girl and you had that kind of input, right? You got the static off the line and your heart was speaking to you. Yeah. If you 3 sheets to the wind, man, that connection ain't there.
That's right.
And that's the problem when we start numbing ourselves and we lose ourselves in displacement activities, because we disconnect from this universal intelligence that's available to us. We disconnect from the heart because we don't want to feel.
Yep.
You're supposed to feel.
Yeah.
The feelings are indications. The feelings are messengers. The feelings are telling you something. They're talking to you. Your wounds are talking to you.
Totally. So in that vein, do you feel like, I mean, you do coaching and you help people along the path, or, you turn the lights on for people. So in that way, because I totally agree, and I've lived that life. I've lived the addict lifestyle, and you're absolutely, I totally agree, is that you're disconnected from yourself. You're disconnected from your heart when you're under the influence of whatever it is. So it's all a paradox anyway, right? But is there a way to the top of the mountain through the substances?
Listen, there's so many examples of people that have walked that path. I mean, a guy I respect a lot is Rich Roll. He talks a lot about his alcoholism. He talked about, how that transformed his life. You can read his books. I mean, it's an epic story and beautiful, beautiful hero's journey in his own right.
Yeah.
There's so many examples of that. There's so many examples of people that have overcome it. And like, we talk about chemical dependencies and things like that. And of course, there's an element to that. But I can promise you that your soul is stronger than any of these chemical dependencies.
Yeah.
But, you can't solve it at the mental level, right? You got to get into your heart, and you got to open up, and you got to be willing to feel some of the pain. And because, I'd say, I think everybody that has some chemical dependency, there's some pain somewhere.
Yeah.
Right? And I even, I had this discussion, I still live here in Miami, and I was at this party with my kids, and I was talking to one of the wives of one of my friends, and she said, I'm so glad it's 5:30, so I can have my glass of wine. If I don't have my glass of wine every day at 5:30, I would lose my mind. Mm-hmm. And I asked her, I said, have you ever thought about that? And she said, no, what do you mean? And so I said, well, how many glasses of wine do you have every day? Right? And she says, well, 2, sometimes 3 if it's a bad day. And I said, have you ever wondered why you have to take the edge off at 5:30? Yeah. You're a closet alcoholic. She says, I'm not. I said, try to go without for a week.
Wow. And
she was so resistant, right? And Brene Brown was another person I think has done amazing work. And she used to be that woman, and she stopped drinking for this reason, right? It's like she asked herself, what edge am I taking off? Why is this?
Yeah.
What am I hiding? What am I numbing? What am I, what's going on here? I need to make some changes in my life. Why do I feel this way? Why do I have this dependency? And, when you start shining a light on this stuff, a lot of times, I'm not saying it's that easy to overcome, but a lot of time it dissipates.
Yeah.
You're like, no, I don't want to do this. This doesn't make any sense. And you start making changes, and, none of this is easy, but I don't want to downplay it in any way, but it's like it starts with awareness and a willingness. And this is, I haven't done the 12-step program. Unfortunately, I haven't need to, but I think the first thing you acknowledge in that, one of the first things is that, I'm in pain.
Yeah. Take accountability for your life.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's super powerful, man. I mean, I grew up in a family really affected by the disease of alcoholism, so I'm very well versed in 12 steps. But it's but I think what you're saying, the undercurrent of truth is that you're probably not going to bring the bottle with you to the top of the mountain. On your way out.
Yeah, I would, or unless it's maybe a molehill.
yeah, exactly.
But no, I think along the way you're going to lose interest in it, because you're going to find that, and this is the essence of Zen Mastery Method, and I don't want to, but I'm a big believer that, there's a unity, right, between the mind, the heart, the body, and the soul, and the weakest link is going to be the ceiling, your upper limit of where you can take things. Because if you have a severely weakened body, it can't hold the frequency of where your soul might want to go. Yeah. It might not be able to hold where your mindset can go. And so, we have to look at all these things. And in the end, your body is just, it's your vessel, right? And so if you want to have the energy to do the things that you want to bring into this world, you got to get that vessel in tip-top condition. And I'm not saying everybody needs to be working out 2 hours a day, whatever. I mean,
Right.
whatever your version of tip-top condition is, but detoxifying is one of the first things you can do. It's easy, I mean, there's so many dirty products. There's, people complaining about how expensive organic food is, but, GMO, genetically modified food has no energy value. And so, you're putting garbage in your body, and let alone, all the dry fruits and all that stuff, it's like it has no energy content. So that's not going to fuel and power your way. Just like you have to put powerful ideas and concepts into your mind, you need to put nutritious food in your body. You need to get rest. Your body needs sleep. It's one of the most important things. Your body needs breath. It's free. You can go on WimHof.com and learn how to breathe in 10 minutes. It's all there. It's free, right?
Love it.
Epic guy. There's so much free stuff out there. You don't even need to have money for this stuff.
Yeah, it's true, man. I love that. Well, when you think about it, if we're living in the physical realm as spiritual beings living in the physical realm, so you're detoxing the physical body. That's sort of the fundamental or the foundational point to start the rest of the journey.
Yeah, And emotional trauma is stored in our body, right? So
1,000%.
So on a cellular level, we have an enormous amount of emotional garbage that we carry with us. And so, and this is what breath work is about. This is about taking cold showers, cleaning your lymphatic system, but, the healthier the food. But, there's a release process there too. Every 7 years, every cell of our body is regenerated. So, we can detoxify ourselves, but also get rid of this emotional garbage that no longer serves us, right? Because once we learned our lesson, we don't have to carry it anymore. We can let go of that baggage and, get a couple stones out of that backpack we're locking around.
I love that. So true, man. Well, Robert, I want to be mindful of your time, brother.
I don't know if you want to touch on the other four, but, we kind of dwelled on the first one.
The first one is so powerful. I'll read these other four, and we can I think people would get a lot of value out of just checking out all of your stuff. So truth number 2, suffering is not inevitable. I don't know if you want to say a quick thing on that.
It's this notion. There's so much hopelessness out there. People that are so lost in their story, and they see no hope, and they see no and then again, they numb themselves, and, they get even further away from shore. And, suffering is not your destiny in life. It's not the purpose of life. You don't have to. There's tools and medicine out there that can get you to the other side where, and I'm not saying that life is going to have zero suffering in it. We're all humans. We all got shit on our path. We still got stuff that happens that blows our mind and breaks our heart, and, that stuff happens. Yes. But, when you got better tools, now you can manage that a lot more. You're not finding yourself in a constant state of suffering where you're also in the sympathetic nervous system. You're in your fear and flight. It's incredibly unhealthy for your body. I mean, all your major organ functions shut down. Your digestional tract shut down. So, there's other reasons for this, but suffering is not inevitable. It's just, I always want to tell people, man, there's another side to this.
Yes, absolutely, man. Is it it's an old Zen precept, isn't it? Pain is inevitable, suffering is not.
Yeah.
I love that. Truth number 3, discomfort is beautiful. Fucking A, man. We hit it on the head.
Yeah, we talked about that. And because we have such a strange relationship, we always think that we're in discomfort. It's wrong.
Yeah.
And what I try to tell people is switch that mindset, embrace it. Because in that discomfort is your growth, your expansion. And this can even be learning how to play an instrument, learning a new sport, starting a new job that maybe just, it's all new and, you're uncomfortable. No, that's where your growth is. When you started to learn to drive, you were like paralyzed. You're like, I don't know what all these buttons are. And, you were like, holding the steering wheel. And like a year later, you're probably cruising around, hopefully not texting, but probably, and like, you're doing 100 million things and you're driving automatically, right?
Yeah.
It's through discomfort that we grow and expand. And that's our job here, man.
Yeah, man. I love what you said earlier, man. You don't learn anything when shit's going good. You know?
Nothing. Yeah.
When you're super comfortable and cozy, you don't learn a whole lot.
Right.
Amazing. Truth number 4, knowing the source of all your power. I think that's what this whole pod was about, but
yeah, it's your heart.
The heart, man. And truth number 5, we talked about this too, the ripple effect.
Right. Yeah. And I think especially today, because, we're so fixated on social media and everybody's putting their best picture up there and everybody looks like they're miles ahead of us. And we all want these quick fixes. I see 100 million coaching offerings and, this is how you can, manifest your dream life overnight and all this shit. And I can tell you, know this from professional sports. It's the small little shit when nobody's watching consistently is what makes the difference. It's not the big stuff it's like it's going to the gym 365 days, right? Yep. And every day chipping at it instead of going to the gym for 6 hours one day and not going the next month.
Exactly.
It doesn't work that way, it's just small steps and don't get fooled by these messages that people are putting out there. It's all show. It's mostly bullshit. It's also marketing. And it's like, it's not real life. And like anything meaningful, anything worthwhile in your life, it takes time to build. Rome wasn't fucking built in one day. And, I especially want to say this in the area of relationship because I don't have the best history in this, but I feel like there's this general disposable approach to relationships, right? We get into relationships and, we hit a little rocky patch and we just like, screw you, I'll just get someone else. And that's not how you go deep. Yeah. I'm not saying it's wrong, when things just, there's no future and sometimes it's the best decision to part ways. Sure. But, I think you should always take stock and say like, maybe a ripple effect, right? Maybe little steps. How do we go deeper? How do we go through this? Because, that's where usually the most beautiful things are.
Absolutely, man. I could say from experience, my wife is... Our relationship is one of my greatest teachers, and it's been so beautiful to experience the mountainous highs that we have and these hellfire lows. We've been through a lot of shit together, man, and it's like we somehow find a way to keep coming back to each other with love, and it's just beautiful.
And it deepens, right?
Absolutely.
And it's those are some of the most profound things we can experience in our life. And
it opens in the depth of the love. It just expands. And I'm like, this was so fascinating to me. This was even like at the end of the last year, like 4 or 5 months ago, I was looking at my wife and, my meditation practice. I'm super disciplined in my spiritual practice, and that's really begun to transcend into my everyday active life. And I'm looking at my wife this one night and I go, my God, it's so easy to just take for granted that this is this incredibly beautiful being. And I have no clue what's about to come out of her mouth. I have no clue what she's about to express to me. And to just be completely in the moment and able to receive that and all its majesty and mysticism and beauty. It's like, whoa, dude, it's incredible, and to be this reflection for each other.
Yeah. I love hearing that, man. I think it's so powerful. And I'm also a big believer, right, that, it's not that the woman makes the man, but, having a powerful relationship, a deep relationship like that, right? It inspires and fuels a man into this world, right? I mean, we draw inspiration from having that feminine energy around us, and that's so undervalued in so many. I hearing you speak as appreciative as you do about your wife is just one of the things I think we as men need to bring into this world, and we have to have some admiration for that.
Absolutely. And I want to qualify that, man. We've had times. I mean, there's been over the last year, we have had some times where it's like, I don't know if this is going to work out, where
That's
people,
life. That's
If
live.
someone even said to me, there's been times recently where if someone said to me, Eb, you're going to have to do a lot of work to make this relationship work, I would have been like, fuck you, man. It's all on her. And then all of a sudden, the spotlight gets turned back on me and I go, whoa, look at all my shit that I'm bringing in here.
Yeah.
And then I find this whole new landscape of compassion for her, and it's beautiful, and it's you know, man, it's incredible. And just to say, it's not all and nothing in life is
not all roses and sunshine, and
exactly.
that's part of the journey, and
yes.
Again, I'm not a relationship coach, but I think that it's a lot of times people underappreciate that. So I love hearing you talk about it that way, and it's I don't want to call it work, but it's we have to commit, right?
Absolutely. Commit. And intimacy is one of the most difficult things. I mean, that's something really for me. It's like, wow, I get really uncomfortable when I'm challenged to be more intimate, That's a big, and I think that's a man thing. It's definitely.
We're not the best at expressing our feelings.
Yeah, right? Exactly. Sometimes but it's so beautiful when we do, right, Robert? I mean, it's
and listen, women are love machines. But they have to feel safe and protected, and they have to feel connected.
Yes. Yeah.
Because they're insatiable. When a woman in love is insatiable. Right? They're love machines. That's all they want to do. They're built for that. No, and totally. I mean it in the most beautiful way.
Absolutely. Oh, I know exactly what you mean.
We have to create that safety and protection and access to us. She has to feel us.
Yeah.
When she feels us, now she can open up, right? And a lot of times when we feel like she's being a bitch, it's really we're closed.
Right. Exactly.
We're not. She's not feeling us.
Yeah.
She can't open up. She can't open up emotionally because it's not safe.
Yeah.
Right. And so we have to be aware as men. Like, hey, man, we carry some frequency here that we need to bring that consciousness in there. And I always say, like, you got to open your heart even when you know it might fucking hurt. Because the hurt will be temporary. Because as soon as you can get her to feel you, the hurt will go away. The hurt is permanent when you close off.
Yeah. So powerful, brother. Robert, it's been an absolute pleasure, man. Thank you so much.
No, it's been fantastic. I enjoyed it, man. This is a great conversation. I love the work you're doing. So kudos to you. Kudos to bringing it into the world. It's needed.
Likewise, man. Thank you so much. I'll have all this in the show notes, but if you want to just tell everybody where they can check you out, find your book, all that good stuff.
Yeah, so the book is neverenoughitis.com. It's on neverenoughitis.com. It's on Amazon as well. I'm on Facebook and Instagram at the Zen Whisperer. You can find me there. And for now, you can sign up on this website, neverenoughitis.com. You get my newsletter, and then you get notified when my Whisper website goes live. That's being finished, and that will be out shortly. And in a few months, we're going to bring out this digital course. And, that'll be the best place for everybody to find me.
Love it, man. Thank you so much, dude. Your work is profound, and I appreciate it. Hey, everybody. Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of the Ebb and Flow podcast. I hope you got as much out of that as I did. To support me in this show, you can subscribe, rate, review on your favorite podcast platform. You could also check me out on Patreon, patreon.com/EDS Britton. You'll get an exclusive version of this podcast, bonus episode each week. Lots of love to you guys. Until next time, I'll see y'all on the flip side. Peace.